What is up to all our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream. I'm your host, not Johnny Destructo, who himself is the owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex in Manayunk, Philadelphia, PA. I am the, let's say, podcast stepfather you never asked for this week. Noel Bertocci. With me is
Brian Lieb. Where's the podcast stepfather that we did ask for?
I mean, you know what? It's a conversation between me and your mother.
I understand.
That we'll have when you're older and you can understand.
I understand. I'll give you a number.
Yeah. Well, just give me in contact with your mother. I'll have a conversation with her, and then we'll decide as a team how we're going to talk to you about how the family dynamic is now going to work.
I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah, it's going to work. It's going to be. Yeah. It's going to be fine. You know what? It might be hard at first.
Sure,
but it's going to be okay. As you can see, there's two less boxes, so this is an exclusively sidekick and henchfolk edition of the CultPop podcast. So today we're going to be talking about this past week's comics as well as our book selection. So we did not forget about book club. That's why we're here. It's John Constantine, Hellblazer, Volume 1, Marks of Woe by Simon Spurrier, Aaron Campbell, and Matias Bergara. But first, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, which I know we normally don't do, so just bear with me. As you can tell, JD's not here, but don't turn it off. We're going to do okay. Brian, I know that you're ready to just bounce, but don't.
Listen,
we're going to have a good time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to have a good time, I promise. He's on a much needed vacation and Len had some business to take care of, but we're here for the live stream and just have a conversation with you guys. But next weekend, we are intentionally likely going to take off. The day after Halloween, November 1st, we're probably going to take a much needed break from the live stream. But then we will be back November 8th. Refreshed and ready to go, and we'll be communicating any differences in between now and then. But in our absence, there are loads of videos and episodes on our YouTube channel, CultPop Go, YouTube, and in the feed that you get this podcast. So revisit old ones, visit new ones, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, all that jazz, because we're just going away for 1 week. Don't freak out. So we did have one letter.
We had a letter?
We did have a letter.
Maybe by next week we'll have lots of letters.
Yeah, we had one letter, but it's a topic that would be better discussed by all four of us. It has to do with costumes, so we figured we would save it for when the guys are back, for when the rest of the team is back, and it would just be more fruitful than me and you
fun conversation
talking about.
We don't want to leave them out. Yeah,
it'd be better. So I mean, with all that out of the way, I guess we could just talk immediately about the comics. Doesn't it feel weird that there's not just like a little bit of a buffer?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about something else, completely unrelated to the show, something like that. Changing family dynamics.
Have you? Yeah. Let's talk about the makeup of your nuclear family.
Sure.
Now, is there anything other than the assigned books this week? So, Behind the Sausage, it usually is behind the sausage being made. It's usually
that sausage.
One of us assigns Brian what to read. So other than what we assigned you and what we were going to talk about this week, is there anything that you read or wanted to read or saw that was just like, oh, cool?
Did I read anything? No, I got a couple. So this isn't even from this week, but I've got the Dreaming, the Waking Hours coming up next. And I've read the first 2 issues, and they have been awesome.
That's really, by G. Willow Wistman, right?
Yeah, Willow Wilson. Yeah. I thought you said Wistman.
I said it really fast with coffee in my mouth, so it was G. Willow Wistman. Yeah,
really fast with coffee in my mouth. Isn't that like an album in the 90s?
Yeah, it was. You couldn't understand the lyrics.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
it was awful.
Yeah, people for decades were singing other words.
I remember. But the Dreaming Waking Hours has been really good. It's drawn me into a Sandman universe thing in a way that I haven't been in a while. And it's got like a cool, hey, Samuel David, what's happening? He says, yay, sidekicks to us, presumably to us, or just 4 sidekicks, could be. There we go. It's got a cool story that looks like it could be a cool miniseries, but there's also some things seeded that if it is intended to be longer, I could totally see it going longer. So I
That's
recommend
cool.
it. That's cool. Yeah.
I like you never with the way that DC does their publishing now. I never know if a DC Black Label is going to be an ongoing, a mini, if it leads into something else, because they've used the brand a little bit in a wonky way where at first it was just supposed to be on the side, adult-oriented stuff.
Right.
But then they got rid of Vertigo, which had longer form, series, but then also like offshoots of series. So Black Label is Vertigo, but not really. So are these just minis? Do they have a connection? So I know it's also got like that Sandman Universe banner. Is that a separate action of?
And it's even got, to further confuse it, it's The Dreaming, which was a title, Waking Hours, which makes it seem like it could be a mini, but it doesn't say, it just has 3. It doesn't say 3 of anything. There's a cool, just a quick plot point. You can see Shakespeare here. One of the characters is stuck in The Dreaming. She's a Shakespearean scholar who's really interested in the authorship question. Who wrote Shakespeare's stuff, right? Because a lot of people propose it was this person, his wife, or some other, Kip Marlowe, right? So they all show up in Shakespeare's house in The Dreaming, all saying like, no, I'm the real Shakespeare. And
like, I am Spartacus?
Out. Yeah,
just,
kind of.
Yeah.
They all think they're Spartacus.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? I just finished. I am 3 issues away from finishing the first volume, the first big chunk of American Vampire. But last night I did finish a reread that no one else cares about. I reread the entirety of Rick Remender's Captain America run, which is about 36 issues or so.
What was the storyline that he was doing? Was that Bucky?
No. Well, I mean, no. That was right after Ed Brubaker left. So he took a hard left and did a hard sci-fi book where Captain America was stuck in Dimension Z for years and raised a son and all kinds of stuff.
Was that when he was very old when he came back?
Towards the end of it, like a bunch of stuff happens and he loses everything and is old. And then the last, I want to say 10 issues. So like the last arc of Captain America is him old, and then the supporting cast coming around it, and then right before the very last arc, which the book gets retitled like All New Captain America, is Sam Wilson as Cap. So Sam Cap, and those are the last. That's the last chunk of his run. That's what I read last night. I literally plowed through the last 6 issues of Sam Wilson Captain America because the art was by Stuart Immonen, which is one of my favorites. Yeah. And it is, I can't believe I skipped it when it was coming out because it was so good. And it was kind of sad that he left Marvel and will never revisit. But like those last couple of issues of Sam Wilson as Cap, there was a lot of very on the nose, but really effective, like social commentary, like in a diner, you'd have a young kid arguing with his father and his father kind of going off about like, what did Sam Wilson ever do? Sam Wilson's not my Captain America. He didn't win a war. Why, we all know why he got the job. And his son is just like, oh God. Yeah. So it was a lot of really, really fun conversations.
That's cool.
Well, fun, uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah. Fun to see it pointed out.
Yeah. In Marvel Comics.
Right.
But that was my very weak segue into the first book this week.
What book is that?
Which is The Scumbag #1, written by Rick Remender, with art by Louis LaRocca.
That was pretty weak. All right.
Yeah, it was a very weak one. Like I didn't even realize that connection was there until I started.
I was like, what Captain America book came out this week?
Wait, I mean, question about segues though? If you call them out, are they segues anymore?
That's a good point. Actually, is that even more of a segue? If you're like, I am transitioning to the next topic.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I'm great on top of being great.
Yeah, that was double great.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So the first book we're going to talk about is The Scumbag #1 by Image Comics, written by Rick Remender with art by Louis LaRocca. So I'm going to read what Diamond has to say.
All right.
Rick Remender launches an all-new comedy espionage series, The Scumbag, the story of Ernie Ray Clementine, a profane, illiterate, drug-addicted biker with a 5th grade education. He's the only thing standing between us and total Armageddon because this dummy accidentally received a power-imbuing serum, making him the world's most powerful super spy. There's another chunk to it, but I'm going to hold off on reading that until we talk about it.
Okay.
So, Brian, what were your thoughts on this first crackerjack issue of Scumbag #1?
I thought it was pretty crackerjack. to coin an adjective. It was fun. It was good. It was certainly not the kind of thing that I would be drawn to. That I would never pick this up off the shelves myself. And it telegraphs where it's headed, but in a way that is not. It's not bad to do so. I think it's in a positive sort of like. You know where this story is headed, kind of.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride to get there. So that wasn't a detractor. I liked the one flip where they did where he's finally got his drugs, right? And he's there. You think he's in the bathroom. You got diarrhea coming out of him, and then it switches and he's in the exact same pose, but he's on a street full of people. And I was like, well, that was pretty effectively done, to showcase what state he is in, what state his life is in now.
The art does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to perspective shifts during this book. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of points, like that's only I think the first one where they show like his perspective, even if it's like terrible, but they pan out in the reality, and they do that later on in the alleyway where he's essentially witnessing like what a dragon fights another. Like
it's like a Medusa versus a leprechaun. It's just two people.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but it's just two people fighting, which is really effective. Also, too, like I when those things kind of happen, I see it as a like a cheat, but a good cheat for the writer, being able to just kind of real shorthand show you what you need to see. Like this is a bad guy, this is a goodish guy, and we're gonna put them in these like personas.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that. I was just like, oh, this is a delusion that he is having, but it does also work in that way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it's usually those choices are very, very, they're often not involuntary or they're not arbitrary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are usually always kind of like, I see you, shorthand kind of stuff. Yeah. I picked this up only based on the creative team. Yeah. Because I really like Rick Remender. Luis LaRosa.
Okay.
I really, really like the creative team, and it got a lot of buzz. The title is very intriguing. Just scumbag.
Evocative, even.
Yeah, just scumbag. Yeah. And a lot of the key art is of this nasty looking, like the art looks like it smells like this man is supposed to.
Definitely.
Like it's very gritty, it's very disgusting, it's like lived in a dangerous kind of way.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely something that was intriguing. I didn't like the first half all that much. I loved the art, but it was just like I effectively hated this man.
Oh, sure.
And then it was about halfway through when I realized what Rick Remender's doing. He's essentially, I mean, it's all on the page. There's no subtext. It's all text. Or there's no context. It's just text.
Yeah.
He's taking this person that you are supposed to hate and making them important, which I cannot imagine isn't an allegory for a lot of the things that are happening today. Like, we don't have to like who has our lives in our hands. We just have to make them be okay with. Like, we just have to make them function.
Get it done right.
Yeah. Which I know is a really this is a very high or very broad allegory for that kind of stuff, and for me it became effective towards the end. Now I'm gonna read the last bit of the Diamond Solicit because I didn't know this until I copy and pasted.
Okay.
This new ongoing series will feature a murderer's row of all-star artistic talents rotating each issue. The first issue showcases the stunning work of Luis LaRosa, with subsequent chapters and covers by brilliant talents such as Andrew Robinson, Eric Powell, Tula Lotte, Wes Craig, Roland Bashi, Simone DeMeo, Marguerite Sauvage, Duncan Fegredo, Yannick Paquette, Mike McCone, Dave Johnson, Marino DeCino, and more. This is going to be an anthology book of sorts of all rotating artists.
But just in art, right? Or it follows this character. But that's an interesting choice.
Right? Yeah. Every single issue is going to be some sort of either ongoing or standalone adventure of this human piece of garbage with nothing but, I guess he's got superpowers. Yeah, we didn't talk about the book.
He does. Yeah.
He's a junkie that accidentally imbues himself with or injects himself with what makes you a superhuman or a super spy, and they bribe him into
I'll tell you what, the way that happens, even knowing, like, there's no other way that this could have happened, right? He's got a needle. The needle rolls into an alley. The super spies are fighting over a different needle with some very positive contents, presumably. And the guy, like, presumably the good guy, but we don't really know that, grabs a needle, shoves it into his heart because he thinks this is like the nanotech that's going to give him superpowers. And I was still slightly surprised when it happened. You know what I mean? Like, it's so laid out. Like, this is exactly what's going to happen. But just caught up in the story in the moment, I was like, oh no, that's the heroine or whatever it is. You know, this is not good.
Yeah, I really, really loved like that was that kind of dark humor I actually really enjoy. So you've got like these two super spies fighting each other. One accidentally injects himself with heroin and then it starts to fade into it, but then they both shoot each other in the head. Like, that is such dark, nasty humor. And it's humor because it's staged as a joke, and the punchline is that they both blow each other away. So it's supposed to be funny, but there's nothing funny about it. It's actually really disturbing. Sometimes that stuff, when it's pulled off well, it's just like, well done. Sam David mentioned here, I mentioned it before, but it feels like a joke. Like, the creators were like, I bet we can get these people to buy anything. Yeah, call your book Scumbag and make sure you have a plan. If,
I've heard the same thing about, and I don't know if this is true, but the story goes that the same is true of dogs wearing clothes. That it was a bet that somebody was like, I'll bet you I can get people to do anything, and in a year they'll have conventions about it. And then they did. And then they were told that, and the people were like, oh, how interesting. I like my dog wearing clothes. I'm going to keep doing this.
Like, I don't care how you came across this great idea. It's a great idea.
Right.
But yeah, would you continue this series just to see where it goes? Or,
you know, I'll tell you what, the thing that makes me most interested in continuing it is seeing how they will maintain this continuity with a different artist every book, because it's also the kind of book that could do that. He's a drug-addled, kind of guy who maybe a different art style every issue could be play into the story itself, You're suggesting that the art changes will be could be a part of the story. I don't know that they will be. It might be more of a subtext thing. They could be, but or kind of like you see Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. You remember how they did? They changed the actor because it was like the perspective of the. And it worked really well. They had to do it because Heath Ledger passed away, unfortunately. But it felt like it was part of the story all along. And I wonder if this will be obviously very, very different. But the next issue will be like they planned out. I personally feel like the simplicity of it is going to lend to being able to just make it almost anthology feeling, like just single missions or screw ups of this character. So I think at least the first handful are just going to be one shots almost. I think that's how it feels to me. No, it's the first issue, but the story itself is self-contained. It's just like an origin story, and that's that. Whereas maybe the next one will just be a mission. Oh, that's funny. I thought the next one was like, we have to take care of this thing that we've set up here. But in so much as using this asshole. Right. I don't know if they didn't set up like a large there's some kind threat so much as something's coming. Yeah, there's something he's got to do, but now that we're talking about it, I could see this being the kind of book where you rarely, if ever, see him actually doing the things that they want him to do. Maybe just like mostly off panel, a little here and there, and usually it's him between missions, and they're trying to cajole him. If that is the case, I could see this being it. What's that? This art is so good. It is really good. Yeah. I like their reactions too. The people that are in charge of this organization are like, oh shit. Yeah, the acting is spectacular. This is I liked this more. The more I sat with it, the more I liked it. Like reading it through was just like, it's I see what they're doing. That's fine. The more I thought about it, the more I kept flipping through it and the art and then learning the idea that it's going to be a different artist every time. Like the idea of maybe anthologizing something weird like this, and also too, it's brand equity. Like I will give Rick Remender a shot for pretty much anything. So hopefully it pays off. Sweet. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the next one. All right, let's segue into that one. Doing segue Now,
Okay, as a segue, I'm gonna like the segue itself is let's talk about the next one. So this is a digital only release from Panel Syndicate. We read and reviewed the first issue, but that was early in the pandemic. So what, 6 months ago almost? And
it was a while ago.
Yeah, the second issue finally came out, and wanted to talk about it. So this is Friday #2, written by Ed Brubaker with art by Marcos Martin. There is no description for this one issue because it's a digital release, but I do have a description of the book for those of you that kind of forgot or need to be reminded. Friday Fitzhugh spent her childhood solving crimes and digging up occult secrets with her best friend Lancelot Jones, the smartest boy in the world. But that was the past. Now she's in college, starting a new life of her own. Except when Friday comes home for the holidays, she's immediately pulled back into Lance's orbit and finds that something very strange and dangerous is happening in their little New England town. So, Brian, what did you think of this book?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a little tough getting back into it after so long, but like so many things coming out now that can't be held against this book. You know, I mean, it was a long time ago. There's somebody in there with you.
There's a ghost. There was a ghost that walked behind me, a ghost in a hoodie.
That's pretty cool.
Because ghosts get cold.
Why shouldn't they? Yeah, so that kind of thing can't be held against any of these books, you know, but it was still a little difficult. I remember the first one I was thinking like, kind of tired of this gritty real world approach to things. You know, it's not that this one is poorly done. I've just seen it so much now, you know, and this one didn't feel like that so much at all. You know, it was more, I don't know, it moved. I was more engaged with it. I was less like, well, they didn't play up the one thing that really stuck with me was Lancelot Jones being like, oh, he's actually kind of a jerk because he's into these mysteries. And I was like, yeah, the reason that they only talk about mysteries in these books is because that's what these books are about, you know, that kind of thing. None of that entered my consciousness this time. I found myself thinking like, oh no, their relationship, Friday and Lancelot Jones, no, they would be so great together, but it just isn't working. And, you know, who knows what will happen.
Before we try and read that scene, because my mind shifts as to how that actually played out. But I gotta say, I do love, not that I love that you have an aversion to it. I love hearing about your aversion to, you say gritty. I just say applying realism to previously established tropes. Yeah. So the idea of kid detective and you know, adventure, YA adventure, like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, the idea of moving that forward 20 years or 10 years or whatever into a more modern context, to me, that's not gritting it. That's kind of just like evolving it. It doesn't diminish what was before, and it also can create something new. Now, if you do it poorly, it's just edgelord bullshit that, you know, like, look, they're saying the F word.
Right.
Like, that's
right. But Nancy just fucking Drew.
Yeah, no, just the premise though of taking it from one genre or one aspect of a subgenre into another one, I actually think is really fascinating and fun. So the first issue of this, of what happens when kid detectives, one goes to college and one stays home. Well, here we learn that it's because he's 2 years younger.
Right.
But like, I think that that's pretty cool. She comes back and she's smoking cigarettes and like kind of wants to talk about their relationship, but it's just like, great. You know, he's pulling me into a like 2 minutes off the train, and he's pulling me into some sort of weird mystery, and that's not what's important. So like the clashing I thought was really, really good. And then in this issue, we learn about that last summer before she left, and it was effective, pretty emotional. And
yeah, I thought it was really well done. The way that
upsetting in a good way, right?
Yeah. Although it's interesting that you say 2 minutes off the train, she wants to talk about these things, and he's pulling into another mystery instead of talking about important things. And that I think is, let me backtrack a second. I also can find that kind of thing really interesting and fascinating. I think I had this was like one too many in a row that I saw.
Was this like right after anything Tom King, where he made one of your
possible.
heroes?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so, but it's possible.
Like if it was after Strange Adventures #1 that we talked about it, then it was
I'm
just like,
screw this.
I mean, what the hell?
Right. I think it's kind of similar sometimes to some people's reactions to Luke in what was the second one, The Last Jedi, where he's like, "Oh, your laser swords and whatever." Sometimes I'm like, yeah, these mysteries are important. That's why I'm here. These are not, like in the world that they live in, these mysteries are real things and they're very important. But that being said, I like I said, I didn't feel that way with this one at all. The way that they went through the past kind of things where you get the covers. I mean, you can see it here, but for the people that are listening only, so definitely can't see it. These are kind of covers of old teen or preteen YA.
Yeah, so that's again another perfect segue. The structure of this issue was very interesting because it does pick up like literally directly right after the first issue ends. And honestly, I didn't remember the details of the first issue. I just kind of like, I'm just going to go through with this because they know, like the writers know this was 6 months later. This was 6 months ago. The structure of it was or immediately following the first issue, but she goes to, the main character, Friday, goes to sleep, but then we are treated to the flashbacks of how they met. And then the passage of time between that meeting and the dissolution or the dissolvement of their friendship is shown through. I mean, well, at the time, was shown through mocked up covers of young adult fiction mystery novels, and they were adorable and incredibly well done. Did you read the pieces of prose in between the pages?
Oh, definitely.
I was gonna say, I figured if anybody did, it was you. And they were just story excerpts, but it like the writer and the artist just went through the time of actually kind of writing excerpts of these books to just show in a splash page, which was fantastic. I thought I thought it was really great, and it gets you into this world of, these are the kinds of things that we're familiar with, but this has never existed before. So it's cool to, see them kind of go through it in that way. Also, speaking of when they met, the art is like this halcyon sort of existence, and it doesn't change when it's in the modern world. And I think it's very effective. It's the art really moves me through this book, and it sets a tone for. It's both adult, but also has this kind of simplistic innocence that is the exact tone of the book in general. I completely agree. The art and the coloring is fantastic in this book. I really like Marcos Martin. It's a very his figures are usually very exaggerated, but not in a unrecognizable or unfeeling kind of way. Heads are oblong, bodies are slender, but it's still a moat. It's not just a gimmick, which is really, really nice. Like it's like an aspect of the best kinds of cartoons. Like you still you can still see the acting, and you could still kind of feel the emotion on the page.
There's really, also a simplicity to it, similar to cartoons, where, there's a lot of panels that there's not that much going on, but not in a way, especially when they first meet and it's winter, but not in a way that feels like, oh, they're just drawing foreground. It's like, it's intentional and it's good to be there.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I also like how they mention she shows up at this town when she's a kid at like 6th grade or something, and is like, oh, this town is so boring, but there's so many different things happening in this town. And I'm reminded of Murder, She Wrote, right? This old show, right? And Chris Noel. But
it might as well be the murder capital of the world. Like, it's just so sleepy, but there's always, like, every week there's a murder or a mystery.
So much killing going on in that town.
So much carnage in this little town that only this old lady understands.
Right.
You know what? I do want to talk about, like, what happened in their relationship, but I almost don't, because people should read this book. It's available via panelsyndicate.com. It's a pay what you want to read comic. There's a bunch of other comics on there. But this was really, really good. And I will say too, like, what happens to them in their relationship is just so well done. In a one person wants one thing, one person wants the other. Maybe they want the same thing, but it's such an awkward 17-year-old resolution that it obviously still is not resolved. So like
Definitely not.
they decide to do something, but then they're like, did it not work because of nerves? Did it not work because it wasn't supposed to? Did it not? So like there's a lot of really, really very ripe, dramatic things in here in the middle of a very brightly colorful, cartoonish story. Like this was maybe the favorite thing I read this week.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the mystery, which may or may not, but I'm pretty sure is part of the mystery, where I thought it was really cool, where she wanders in the forest and she meets this old lady and
it was jarring. The idea that this might have a supernatural bend, even though that they've been hinting at it since like everything that they say about all of their previous adventures in the town. And blah, 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 there's a hint that there's something maybe supernatural. As at this point, I don't know if it's supernatural a la Scooby-Doo, where it's not really supernatural, or if it's supernatural a la Buffy, where it really is, and kids are the only ones that kind of can see it.
I think it's that, because that's pretty common, right? For like, so I've never read any Nancy Drew or Hardy Boys or anything like that, but I did read Encyclopedia Brown, but I barely remember it. My understanding is they're generally in the real world, but sometimes supernatural stuff shows up, and it is real, and I wonder if we'll find out a secret about this town during the story. They're all tied together.
I think she says something to the effect of, it's not the first time I've been running from a monster in the woods. Yeah. That could be metaphor. That could be literal. There's still so much to know about. It's when all of these Panel Syndicate books, they even though they're pay as you go digital, they are, I think almost all of them at this point have been printed. Like when the collection is done, they'll print the hardcover or something.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I definitely want this on my shelf when it's done. This is something that you could hand anybody over the age of 14.
Yeah.
This is great.
As long as they speak, read, and understand English.
Yes. Well, you know what?
It would be hard if they don't.
Yeah, you know what? No.
I'll tell you what. I will agree to take that
pictures.
back. The art's really good. Yeah, it's good. Now, a quick plug for the rest of
just possess eyeballs.
Yeah. That's all you need. So is Panel Syndicate is the one with Sentient and the guy?
No,
Paradise,
that's TKO.
TKO. Okay, right.
TKO. Right. Panel Syndicate is the Private Eye, Bad Karma. What is it? Ironheart and there's a couple. Barrier. Cool. It was actually started by Brian K. Vaughan, I believe, and another artist. So it's the writers so far. I don't know enough about it without pulling it up, but it's panelsyndicate.com. You'll see all of their catalog. The stuff comes out when it's done. It's not always a monthly thing, but we've covered a couple of their books before. I think the last one that we talked about besides Friday was Bad Karma, which was written by Alex DeCampi.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the story with the two soldiers who did a lot of messed up stuff in the war, and now that they're almost like on a redemption tour. That was a really good book. That's a really good book too.
Yeah, that was well done.
But let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, before we do though, Daniel Jansen, kind of gave a shout out. Hey, many thanks with your help for the Brodart covers. Found them on eBay because he's in Sweden. The only way to protect your Just Jackets is with Brodart covers. Look it up. It's wonderful. They're great. But I had to. So the next book we're going to talk about is Fantastic Four number 25, a Marvel mainstay. I figured we're going to touch on every single kind of publishing today. We're going to do a Marvel book. We're going to do an Image book or Image/indie book. We're going to do a digital exclusive.
We're going to do an old scroll that we found in dusty recesses of an uncommon library.
We're going to talk about Roman literature.
Sure.
We're gonna,
tapestries will be mentioned.
Cave paintings is in the 4th hour of the show today.
4th through 7th hour.
Fantastic Four number 25, written by Dan Slott with art by R.B. Silva. A new era for the Fantastic Four. Do not miss it. This issue has it all. New artist, new villains, new uniforms, and a new, major, permanent status quo change for the Marvel's first family. Who is the helmsman? Is he here to save reality or destroy it? Why is Victorious in New York? And what will that mean for the Human Torch? All this in an appearance by Dr. Doom. One of the most important characters in the entire cosmos returns from the dead, and a major turning point in the history of the Fantastic Four. That was all hyperbole. I didn't get anything out of that. However, what did you think of this issue?
I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't go so far as to say all of the things that solicit said, but I liked it. I really liked it. I mean, one thing that it mentioned, the costumes. I always up for
they're
a
dope.
cool FF costume. Yeah, these are very cool. Classic, but reinvented. You know, in the darker part goes under the floor. Yeah,
it's very much a like a two-tone John instead of just like a blue onesie with a 4 in the middle. It's got like a nice black shoulder top and then blue underneath the 4. Like, and also too, they have we're gonna do a whole 10 minutes on the costumes.
Let's do it.
They have corresponding other garments to go with their new costumes. So there's biker jackets that are also matching and boots that are also the kids will so the kids are all running on a mission and like one puts on their, their Fantastic Four leather jacket because it's a little too chilly for the onesie. And they it's just cool. Like they actually have branded items as opposed to just like a uniform, which is super geeky.
Yeah, and which is exactly the kind of thing that they would do too. You know what I mean? They're Marvel's first family. They love doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to have options.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of options, they've got pouches in a very reasonable way, right? Like, if any super team is going to have a pouch on their belt, it's the Fantastic Four. Like, they're adventurers, Reed's always got an invention that's coming out of the ether, basically. Yeah. So it makes sense, and it looks cool, and it works. As far as costumes go, solid hit.
Yeah, and I do love, again, we're going to talk about costumes. I do love that it's part of the story. Like, they walk, like, Johnny is walking around handing them out, like, guys, it's costume day. We get to do it again. It's costume day.
Like, this is the kind of thing that happens in their family. Yeah, because every so often.
Every 1 to 2 years, they get a new costume, and it's just like, everybody got their costumes? We got their costumes, right? Aren't they cool?
I'm surprised Reed has not invented a costume that can just change looks whenever they want.
You know what? That's I'm sure a writer did that at some point. Probably. There's so much Fantastic Four I did not read.
Yeah, and they're already unstable molecules, which I always thought was super cool. Just the idea. Speaking of costumes, did you notice that Franklin is in the original X-Men costume when Johnny Storm? I think it's actually Cyclops's because he's got the visor. So Franklin is a mutant, and for those who don't know. It's always a little weird in the Marvel universe, right? I guess he's got the X gene, but he also has powers because it's because his parents are the 2 members of the Fantastic Four. The origin of his powers for a long time was kind of a mystery, but he's a mutant officially. Yeah. And Valeria is just a genius. She's not really super powered. But yeah, he's a mutant, and he had essentially his teenage rebellion is going off to Krakoa a lot. And they're doing their best to be supportive, but they're like, hey man, you could do both. Yeah. Which is cool. But I think that's the status quo change that they're very much talking about in this issue. So this issue, first of all, I kind of enjoyed this issue. I'm very love it or leave it when it comes to Dan Slott. Like sometimes he just really hits it for me, but then within 2 issues, it's just like, yeah, I get it. Just fine. Like he gets almost like just like he very much has a sweet spot inside like old school Marvel nostalgia. But if it's 5 degrees up or down, it's it's insufferable to me. This is very much in the sweet spot. So I did like it. I appreciate it. I thought it was really cute. But the idea of this helmsman, this new alien or thing, it's more powerful than anything. It's like, big, powerful cosmic thing. They essentially throw literally everything at it, and it just like dusts it off, including all of Franklin's power source. So Franklin had a depleting cosmic power source as his mutant ability. They don't know why it's depleting. They just know that when he uses cut
it,
off from the energy or something, and now he's only got what he's already got. Yeah.
He completely used it like a drained himself like a battery of it, trying to fight this thing, barely scratched it. So he runs off because now he's a human essentially. Runs off and he's like, no matter what, I'll still be a mutant and I'm still special. And then he can't get through the Krakoa gate.
Which you would think also, like, the mutants just went through this where a lot of them were depowered. And they were pretty understanding about those people are still part of
at this point, first of all, I think the gates are not controlled by the mutants. They're controlled by Krakoa. So doesn't sense it, you're out.
Yeah.
But you've got this kind of dramatic setup of a 15 or 16-year-old who finally found his identity, mom.
Yeah.
And then that was taken, so he's not super happy about it, which is really interesting. It's pretty fascinating.
I'll tell you, I really thought
that. Just this big threat, this new big threat.
Yeah, which also was cool with kind of a fun, like, Reed did something sciencey a long time ago and couldn't move it when they weren't in the Baxter building. They had left, and some other similar to the Fantastic Four team was there, and so this thing was still there, but Reed couldn't do anything about it. And I just thought that was a cool kind of Fantastic Four. Like, you've created the most powerful thing around, and this is what he's after. Now, what I thought was going to happen is when that was unleashed and they're like, oh, the energy is going everywhere, we can't contain it. I thought Franklin was going to absorb it and it was going to fix his power issues.
I don't know.
But that did not happen.
I'm still fuzzy as to what this power source. So it's essentially just like a bit of, or a piece of, or similar to the energy that created the cosmos.
Or like from before like this universe. It seems right up Franklin Richards' alley, But I think that's actually the status quo. The change that they've referred to is earlier in the book, Valeria was working on a teleporter system, which she had cobbled together from a variety of other kinds of tech, and she couldn't power it. That was the only problem. But now it has merged with this power source and is immobile. So I think the Fantastic Four are going to they'll rebuild the Baxter building, and they'll have this. It is now a transporter to anywhere in the universe, so things are going to come through. They're going to deal with that, that kind of thing.
For the foreseeable future, this is the new MacGuffin for this book.
Yeah.
The fact that they're sitting on top of this gate that can go anywhere and any when, and have to protect it from everyone in the entire universe that's going to try and get their hands on it.
People will try to get into it. I'm sure they'll go through and have adventures on the other side.
As soon as she did it too, I was just like, oh, so this is at least the next 15 issues of this book.
For sure.
This is what all the way up until the next event is going to be about. Protecting this gate, and then something's going to happen with it, or it's going to get in the wrong person's hands. Which I'm totally fine with. Yeah, totally fine with. And that actually leads us to, I guess, the big shock ending of this book. So at the end, and honestly, one of the reasons why I picked it for the show, because it's in direct continuation of Empire, which we all kind of dug.
Oh yes.
The return of Uatu, the Watcher.
Yeah.
This doubles down on that. He learns the entirety of the Marvel Universe while he was gone, and then resurrects original Nicholas Fury as an agent of the Watchers. So whatever's happening,
like classic Shield costume and what have you. Yeah.
Some of the hubbub online was that. So there's a cat in the screen now. Hey, buddy.
That would create a hubbub.
The last time this happened, he irreparably damaged one of my absolutes. So let's see what happens.
Let's see. Maybe he'll irreparably undamaged.
So for those listening, if JD doesn't just cut this out, Cooper.
That ghost is back.
Yeah. the hoodie ghost took the cat, who was nefariously walking over the tops of the books to knock them down. Anyway. So the idea that some of the chatter online is one of the reasons why I want to talk about this too, was that the idea of bringing back original Nicholas Fury, and I think they're just referring to him as Nicholas, not Nick, because we have Nick Fury Jr.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Was potentially undermining the creation of that character and the status he's held in the Marvel Universe for a long time. Like, oh, you're taking away something that you created and it's good, and it's another person of color that you're undermining, which I would totally get if they were swapping them.
Right.
But it seems like this is going to be a completely different thing for OG Nicholas Fury.
He's got his own thing. Yeah.
Well, it looks like he's a cosmic herald, just for the Watchers. So they're not going to cross paths at all. This is not like, hey, I can't wait to start Shield again. Like, no,
Right.
this
Then I
cat
would
is
agree
going to
with
be
them.
doing something else. Yeah.
Yeah. If they were like,
Um,
oh, he's now going to be a in charge of Shield or something like that, then it would be like they're just transitioning him to being.
and as much as I really like the story potential for that, it was in his dialogue that I got sick of Dan Slott. This was one of the points where it was like too much.
Yeah.
Because OG Nicholas Fury talked like it was the 60s with damn, why would I do something so like it was very old school Marvel dialogue, and I don't enjoy reading that, and it just took me completely out.
I mean, he's even in his
that,
original Shield outfit, which he hasn't worn in the comics for like 40 years. I think
the outfit is dope.
Yeah, with the cloak on top of that. Yeah.
But you're telling me that this like World War II vet is like won't and has seen everything that's ever been done and killed anything that can move, refuses to swear and says like, "Gosh golly darn" instead in like a 1940s kind of way. Like, stop it. It's just like
he had the power of the Watcher. You know, he saw everything, and he was like, "Well, what do I need to swear for?" They get them.
I mean, it's circled around a conversation about how I'll shoot you again, you son of a bitch. So no, like tonally, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Now, speaking of who he could shoot again, I am super excited about the Watcher being back. You know,
it's pretty cool.
The Watcher is one of my favorite kind of side characters. Marvel has a lot of great side characters, and he's up there for me. And I was never too into Nick Fury, so him taking over the weirdly put into the role of the Watcher, I was like, eh.
They almost make it sound better after the fact in this issue.
Yeah.
So if anybody didn't read Original Sin by Jason Aaron and Mike Deodato from a decade ago, I don't even know.
It was a while.
Yeah. Nick Fury killed the Watcher. And as punishment for destroying this celestial being of sorts, he was doomed to absorb the Watcher's eye and take its place as being an agent of the Watchers and not being able to having to observe and record without being able to interfere. So he's just been in the moon, and he'd show up here and there in other like books. I think he showed up in Thor for a hot second, and they mention it all here, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, it was fun. This was a fun big 2 book. I was like,
and the thing about the Kotati weapons, I'm intrigued by that.
Oh, yeah.
What are these weapons? What's the deal? The Watcher knows them, like he's recognized them. So yeah, it's an effective tease. Do you think this will be in its own book, or will this be part of Fantastic Four? I mean, the Watchers are solidly Fantastic Four, if anything. But.
The rumors are that this kicks off a future event. That Dan Slott is going to run. I don't know what it's going to be called. I think somebody said something like the Reckoning War, which he's been kind of seeding in books for a very long time.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning, and they said those words in the last one. Like there will be a reckoning.
They say it a lot. They say it so much that it's just like I get it.
Right.
But yeah, I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a 2-hander for a while. So at first, I think the Fantastic Four are directly going to deal with whatever threats are coming at this gate. In the meantime, whatever that huge, nasty alien that no one could fight is probably going to be tied into whatever's happening with Uatu and the agent of.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned earlier.
Herald of the Watchers. I think they're going to eventually converge into whatever event that's going to be, but for now, it's probably going to be just like in the background of Fantastic Four, and then eventually they'll match up.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, this is a pretty fun book. I don't know if I'm going to fully adopt it, but I mean, this was definitely, if anybody is interested in reading Fantastic Four, if you liked Empire, if this is a great jumping on point and or continuation from that event.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that you did not have to read the first 24 issues. This was definitely a start.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk real quick about our last full review, and we'll do this quick because we're running. Yeah. The next book we're going to talk about is Dark Knight's Death Metal, Robin King, #1, written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by Riley Rossmo. with a utility belt filled to the brim with weapons designed to kill every hero in the DCU. Robin King is the most sadistic soldier in the Darkest Knight's evil army. Can anyone stop him from laying waste to Earth's last line of defense? And how did he become one of the Batman Who Laughs groblins in the first place? Yes, Goblin and Robin. Groblin. And in the backup story, can the Robins liberate Gotham City from the Darkest Knight's control? I don't know. Do we even really need to talk about the backup story? I think the main event was really this first
but
one.
I didn't read it, so it would be less.
Okay. It was just fine. It was a quick in continuity kind of where's Duke during all this signal, and it's like 5 pages of him kind of having a power set redo. It seemed like it was just laying groundwork than actually telling a story. It was fine. But I think the meat of this definitely was that main story by Tomasi and Rossmo. What did you think, Brian?
I really liked it. I think you and I and maybe everybody else in the world really prefers the Robin King to the Darkest Knight, or to the Batman Who Laughs, I should say. And when he first came, when we first saw the Robin King, I was like, ugh, who is this? Who is this Batman Who Laughs redux?
Who's this little shit?
Exactly. But everything about the Batman Who Laughs that is annoying to me is cool about the Robin King. So quick recap: he is a Bruce Wayne who, from the Dark Multiverse, one of the Prime Universe's Bruce Wayne's Dark Imaginings. He is a Bruce Wayne who was the one that killed Thomas and Martha Wayne. And is totally happy about that. He's fine. He loves it, And he is just Batman if he was a psychopath who wanted to hurt and kill everyone. And
he was inspired by, instead of being inspired by the fear of bats, he was inspired by the singing of robins.
Yes, free.
His sociopathic kind of tendencies were echoed in the idea of I will preach like robins do, and people will listen and follow. So
and I thought it was a pretty good.
Robin. Oh, it was wonderful.
Sense. Yeah, robins are one of the most populous birds according to this, so that makes sense. And also, it is not without DC Comics precedent for a young Bruce Wayne to become a Robin. That has happened in a variety of Silver Age and some Silver Age callback to modern age stories. So whereas that might seem odd, well, it is odd, but it's happened before. So, I liked it. When you mentioned Groblins, I was like, does the Batman Who Laughs just go out of his way to be just kind of an annoying guy? In addition to being evil, he's like... it would really piss people off if I called them Groblins.
I mean, Batman in general, in every iteration, every universe, every version of him, Crackerjack branding.
Yes,
Bat
that
boat,
is true.
Bat plane,
That's
Robin
true.
This, Robin that.
Bat on the soles of his shoes.
Everything's got a bat or a bat logo or an insignia. So the idea that the Batman Who Laughs fully brands his henchmen as Groblins. I mean, it's fine.
It is exactly what he would do. It is, definitely. Oh,
yeah, his little drones. Yeah.
Right. He's like, I want to call them Robins, but I also like goblins.
Goblins.
Nailed it. Chalk another one up for me, the Batman Who Laughs.
Print the shirts, Alfred.
Oh, I killed him, right. Also, the art works really well. I don't know if it's the same guy that I forget who the artist is, and I definitely forget who the artist of the other Robin King appearances is. But there's a synergy of style, not a synergy, just a similarity of style that I think works really well for the Robin King character. It's kind of cartoony, but evil.
Yeah, this is Riley Rossmo, who's I think most popular for Proof. That Sasquatch book that came out a long time ago, but more so than that, he is the artist with Peter J. Tomasi that wrote the origin of the Robin King inside that Legends of the Dark Knight one shot for Death Metal. So that time that you did see him before, where he him killing his parents and the origin of that is the same artist. So there is a continuity of this artist kind of handling the important stories of Robin King.
Okay.
Yeah, this was cool.
Yeah.
Like the it was there was something very Silver Age about it that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like the way that he dispatches heroes / his villains
Right.
is all with Deus Ex Machinas in a very Silver Age kind of
planned
way.
for I have
Yeah, like
just the thing to
he's
take
got
care of
just the
this.
thing
Yeah.
for literally everyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in a different context, it would have been really annoying, but for some reason, this art, this story, this tone, it just felt classic in a nasty way. You know, like
Yeah. Definitely.
yeah, like I think it was the pill that did it for me. So like he has spent the entirety of the Wayne fortune creating this utility belt that has something literally for everyone. You know, like every single type of kryptonite, every single type of uh, uh Greek magic, every single the last of the Lazarus pits that he destroyed, the last of the water, that like he literally has every kind of piece of mystical or functional weapon in the DC universe inside of his utility belt.
Wayne Towers buildings, I think, is pertinent to
and
this, where he's
he sets up like hotspots or drop spots for weapons on top of every single Wayne building that owned Wayne building. So when he's out there doing something, it's cool. Like he's got a weapon.
Yeah.
There was one. It was the tipping point for me of me deciding this is cool and not stupid was when he was finally captured by the Batman Who Laughs and was meant to be made a Groblin, which is essentially he just takes Robins from across the multiverse or across the dark multiverse and dips them in the acid or shit. Like the
grabs them up.
Yeah, he goblins them up. Right before this Bruce Wayne Robin is about to get dipped, he throws a pill in his mouth and he's like, I was saving this for the Martian Manhunter. It's going to hide my consciousness in the back of my brain and I'll be able to access it at some point. So like
when I am on fire, like it's only for people who are on fire.
Yeah, it's so hyper specific that I was like, oh, this is like Silver Age bullshit. I'm cool. This is fine. This is up there with my only weakness is yellow.
Yes.
Like but it really works. And so Samuel David's making fun of me.
What's he saying?
Classy in a nasty way.
You or
but it is
Dark
like but it is he's using very Silver Age classy or classic kind of tropes, but he's using them for really nasty scenes and grotesque uses, and it just it makes it kind of that much more fun because it's almost forbidden kind of fun.
I think also the heroes
book was cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think the heroes that he's going up against play a role in that too. Like they're very classic DC, but out of the way. Like one of the groups that he is up against is Blue Beetle, Animal Man, and Red Tornado.
You want to talk about Animal Man?
Ooh, that was rough. Yeah. Animal Man is a big family man, and
I mean, he's one with his family now.
He is as family as you can get in their digestive tracts.
Essentially, go ahead.
Was that a Deceased reference? Did he pull them?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No. So this version of the Animal Man is one of like he's the avatar. He's one of the Earth's avatars, right? Like the avatar of the red. And then there's the avatar of the green, which is Swamp Thing, and then there's the rot, like the decayed the two. So he essentially turned his family into zombies that ate him because they're drawn to the red or the green like feverishly. Yeah. So he essentially just, oh, you're a family man. You want your family back. That's cool. Here they are. And they just eat them. Yeah. And later on you see like he's limbless and Robin King picks him up as a human shield. Yeah. It's a really nasty book. But
speaking of the Silver Age thing, like Robin King has chosen to name the thing that he sprays on Red Tornado the Mortal Coil, which causes him to become mortal and like human, because Red Tornado is an android, or well, he's got a complicated backstory, but he's not biological. And not only that, but cause his tornado powers to go crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
He's turning him human while he's torturing him to death at the same time.
Yeah.
So he's actually feeling new kinds of pain. This is a cool book. We could talk about every single dispatch because it's fun.
I also liked finding out that he wasn't the Darkest Knight. Like, why would he join with him? Mm-hmm. And he wasn't really planning on just taking him on as an apprentice. You know what I mean? I think it fills in kind of a cool piece of their relationship. Foolish though it might be for the Batman or the Darkest Knight to be like, oh, why not just let another Bruce Wayne in on this?
This is a great kind of like Halloween read.
Yeah.
And it's very much what I guess they succeeded in. Tried it, whether you liked it or not. What they did with Superboy Prime for Superman, this dark, aggressive young version that goes off the deep end, and they're doing that with Bruce Wayne, which is really, really cool. Yeah. I want to see. I'm like dream casting this now. I want to see Super Sons fight Superboy Prime and Robin King, like two team ups against each other.
I thought you were going to go with like a Dark World's Final, like the world's.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they're going to fight. Yeah. Superboy Prime and this cat are going to fight. But I want them to eventually team up and go after the rest, because that's just fun. That's comic books.
That's comics for sure.
All right, so that's this week's books.
Yes.
Before we jump into the book club, we got a little bit more housekeeping. Cool. If you like what we do here, drop us a solid and like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and comment so you know whenever we're going live. Don't forget that every Sunday morning, except next Sunday morning, but every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be here live streaming where you can join in the conversation. We'll talk about the week's comics and any other pop culture stuff that's going to be fun to talk about. Please and follow us. Oh, no. Yeah?
No. Is there anything that JD tells us about every week? Some sort of Palerdion? What is it? A website? Patronion? Patreon.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
There
it
is.
Right there.
That's the
one. Help us keep going by donating at patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. There are tiers in there. It is Johnny Destructo's Patreon.
Tiers?
There's tiers.
Tiers in his Patreon?
There's donation tiers. Have you never visited it?
No, I thought you meant of sadness or joy.
Oh, I mean, you know what? If people would pay, I bet that he would bottle his tears for your protection and or spells.
Yeah, I can see him doing
we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
it's all about merchandising. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll pressure him into that later.
Also, don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Facebook. On YouTube, it's CultPop Go, and on Facebook, it's the CultPop Podcasts. And we're always down to talk. So just join us for the conversation. And I think we should now. Again, behind the curtain, we got a couple Thunder rounds. But I don't know. You think we're already in an hour?
Okay.
We still want to talk about the book club.
Right.
What do you think? Should we skip them? We could do two really quick, or we could skip them. We just have to promise not to talk more.
That's a promise I cannot keep, no. But as you well know. But I say we talk about the book club, and then at the end of it, if we feel like doing Thunder rounds, we do them. And then if we don't. We're out.
We're doing it live. All right, cool.
Live.
All right, let's talk about the book club selection for this month, and then we'll see how we feel afterwards.
Sounds good.
Hopefully, we won't lose all the viewers.
Yeah, just a healthy percentage.
Just normal drop off.
Yeah,
that's all we're hoping for. Normal drop off.
That's a win. All right.
You know what? I'm the worst person in the world. I didn't create something for this. So, book club. Every month, for those of you who don't know or joining us for the first time, every month we, the last Sunday of every month, we select a book to talk about. And by book, I mean just like a collected edition, a specific arc, something that we haven't read ever or want to revisit and talk about with the group. This month, we thought that it would be a really, really good idea to do this book for a couple of reasons. One, it's Halloween spooky time, so we wanted a spooky book. Two, this book earlier this month, or actually later this past summer, like late in the summer, got a lot of traction because it was unceremoniously and way too early canceled. It had a lot, like the highest critical reviews. It just wasn't getting sales enough for DC, and they dropped the book before it was even finished with its 10th issue or 8th or 9th issue. The trade hadn't even come out yet, and they were like done at 12. So there was a groundswell on Twitter and on social media about saving this book, and people need to try it and pick it up and make up their own minds. And if they wanted to, try and save it from being canceled from some sort of fate, whether that's going to be in graphic novels later or a continued series or just the further adventures. That was spearheaded by the writer, Simon Spurrier, who and I would highly suggest anybody look this up if they're interested, a little bit of like how creators work with their publishers and just their feelings about what they do. Simon Spurrier, when the news was announced, wrote a really, really good, I want to say op-ed article on his website about his feelings about this, the life of a writer for hire, and how you can and you often do compartmentalize jobs because they're jobs and you just do them well, but there's some that get under your skin and you could see yourself doing it for a long time. And he was like, I thought I was over this shit, but when they canceled this, I was not over it.
That sucks.
So like the passion, like his passion compelled me to be like, guys, and JD had read a couple issues of this and said it was great. So I was like, guys, we should just read this and talk about it. And maybe if we convince one or two extra people to give it a shot, it has a better chance of continuing. Yeah. So I'm speaking explicitly of John Constantine, Hellblazer Volume 1, Marks of Woe, written by Simon Spurrier with art by Matias Bergara, Aaron Campbell, and Marcio Takara. Here is the description. Brutally retrieved from a tangle of apocalyptic futures and outright insanity, the working class Magus finds himself restored to a haunted shadows of London, where local gangsters are being shredded by terrifying entities. Their boss wants to hire Constantine to help, and without a penny to his name and with a gun in his face, who's he to say no? But this isn't an open-end shut exorcism. To put this madness back in its bottle, John must work with the man who tried to replace him during his missing years and confront an impossible power with a horribly familiar face. One of DC's most iconic characters comes screaming and swearing back into the pages of John Constantine, Hellblazer Volume 1, Marks of Woe. Collects this first volume collects the Sandman universe presents Hellblazer 1, which is a one-shot or one and done-ish. John Constantine, Hellblazer 1 through 6, and Books of Magic number 14. So the way that this volume is broken out is it starts with that Sandman universe presents Hellblazer 1. That directly leads into Books of Magic number 14, and then the first 6 issues of Hellblazer proper. So this is a pretty meaty collected edition. This was 8 chapters. Usually they're 4 to 6. So let's dig into it. But before that, what are your thoughts, Brian?
I enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked all of it. Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Take it easy. Bye, Constantine. Yeah, it was good. It was. It's 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 different kinds of things. So there is a little bit of difficulty in reviewing it as a whole, but it was all written by the same person. Yeah. And I really liked it. I think I liked the Books of Magic storyline, or the story, I should say, the best. And I'm trying to remember. I really enjoyed the last issue as well, but now I don't remember exactly what happened in it.
The last issue was, So this book, much like the first kind of chunk of an ongoing, sets up a couple of things, and then just cherry picks where in the story to progress those things. So it'll like go away for a little while, but then all of a sudden it's back. So the one shot, and so the Hellblazer number 1 and Books of Magic number 14 are almost their own separate little story.
Yeah.
Of John is in the nexus of something, everything's falling apart, it's going down, and he gets a deal.
Have you ever read Books of Magic, the original Books of Magic?
No.
It's really good. It's Neil Gaiman.
I don't want
to. You don't have to, but why?
Because I've already read. I got into Lucifer, and I'm gonna read Sandman. I don't want to read all of them.
You don't have to.
I don't wanna.
Noel, I hate to break it to you. You have to. But we get a little bit of that in here where real quick, the Books of Magic is Timothy Hunter could be the next great mage, and these 4 characters that kind of tongue-in-cheek refer to themselves as the Trenchcoat Brigade. Constantine is one of them. It's Constantine, Phantom Stranger, Mr. E. Maybe there's only 3. There might be a 4th one that I'm forgetting. And they each kind of take like a different part of his education. Oh, Dr. Occult. That's who the other one is. And one of the things that happens is Mr. E takes him into the future to see the different things that could occur. One of the things that he sees is if he turns bad and Constantine is dying. And so we see that from old Constantine's perspective in that reality here in this, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is the first issue of this is mildly impenetrable. But I didn't mind it though, because it was done in such a way that it drops you in a story as opposed to makes you feel like you've missed the story. So it drops you into this absolute chaos, gives you like real high level. It was because this did this, got to get him. Constantine is about to die, and he is visited by a elderly version of himself who says, "Hey, I'll throw you back where you could, survive this and whatever, but you got to give me your soul when you're done. Or you got to give me your soul when you die." And he was like, "Why would an old version of me want my soul? Whatever. Who cares? Yeah, sure. Let's do it." Because he's about to die. So the idea of him going back has to do with you gotta get rid of Timothy Hunter. Right? That's his name, right?
Yeah, Timothy Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah, while he's still a kid, so this shit doesn't happen. So those first 2 issues are essentially that story, like sent back in time by an old version of himself to kill Timothy Hunter, and he goes through the rigmarole of trying to, as humanely as possible, kill a 15-year-old.
Right.
But then the kid cheats, and he's like, "I kind of dig you, kid. I'm not going to kill you today, but don't be an asshole." Which is very cool. But then it feels like it's over. The book makes an immediate hard right and becomes a much different, I want to say a much different, darker, muddier kind of street level book with, dealing a lot with tulpas and dark magic. But then every once in a while, the old version of Constantine, who his soul was promised to, shows up. So you're like, oh, this is part of the same thread, but it's a completely different fact. Like this was almost like watching a really, really great television show that's got a main thrust or a main like plot, but you got a lot of like B stories that you don't know until they tell you are related to the main plot. So this really did read really, really well, like almost like a procedural that's got a higher level plot, but still kind of like gives you these little street level stories. So I after the first issue, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing, and then I just kind of settled in.
Also, something in the first issue that was cool is that this is a massive superhero battle that is happening there, but you don't see that. Like he talks about, like, oh, the Capes are up doing their thing, and you see them like very abstractly in the background, and Noel is showing us that them very abstractly in the background, and I'm sorry, I was showing the second page 2 and 3 in the collected edition. It's literally the opening splash page of just absolute chaos in the skies, and then we have the ground level perspective of John Constantine just having a cigarette. Like, what the hell am I going to do about it? His what he does do about it, his trick in that was also very interesting. He gets his longtime friend and colleague, I guess, kind of like Man Friday to believe that he is the linchpin to this whole matter. And he's got, he shows up with this head of a boar, and it was supposed to be a goat. And he's like, "Is this good enough?" He's like, "Oh, it's perfect." And the reason that it is perfect is that all that matters is that Chaz, this man, believes that it is perfect, right? He is sacrificing. And that these demonic entities will be drawn to his belief is what really matters. Very underhanded, very Constantine thing to do.
Oh yeah, it illustrates very quickly that this character, nothing is sacred in the pursuit of besting a villain, right?
Yeah.
So he takes
whatever needs to be done, kind of
the
thing.
closest thing he has to a friend and weaponizes their trust in him.
Yeah,
that's essentially what he does in the first 5 pages of this book.
Yeah,
and it's a ramification for the rest of the book too, in a really fun way.
Yeah, which I mean, also like he is trying to avert the end of at least Earth, if not everything. So it's understandable, but yeah, it's a great character building moment. Speaking of the main series, hello, action figure expert. How are you? How's it going? And the main series, I liked the intro, right? I found it difficult to get through, but it was good. When I say intro, I mean the first 3 issues. For one, the art really good, but tough to move through. So I was glad when it transitioned to something else for after, and then in the second 2 issues and then the third one. Which is not a condemnation of it. It was just like, all right, that was heavy, And also the way the guy spoke, the Harrispecs, which was like some kind of Cockney or very street British accent.
It was like watching Attack the Block with captions on. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to kind of wrap your brain around it unless you can hear it, and if you've never heard it, then it's gibberish. My biggest problem, or the thing I didn't like the most about this book, was the art. I think it's Aaron Campbell is the artist for that chunk. Mm-hmm. It is very, it's painterly, it's evocative, it's kind of Alex Maleev-ish, and because of that, it's very static. It's not super engaging. It's confusing at times, like if something big is supposed to happen, but it just looks like a mess of inks, which is beautiful in and of itself. But in regards to telling the story, it just doesn't really work for me, or didn't work at times for me.
Or same in when you're in that guy's, like, I don't know, lair, his hangout, the Harrispecs. It was kind of difficult sometimes to tell what was happening in the picture.
It was a lot of darkness. A lot of muddiness, and I know that it was intentional and it worked for its intention, but as opposed to like in how it flowed as a story, for me, I didn't care for it. It very much reminded me of what my impressions of Sandman Universe books are.
Which we
had this conversation before too, because like I said, I just finished the first omnibus of Lucifer. I think it was last month. There is one issue in the midst of all of it that is just like a painted full issue that literally takes all momentum, stops it, and then picks it up and smacks you in the face with it. And it turns me off like the next 4 issues because it was such a halt. And this had a touch of that, where it was the Books of Magic issue was so imaginative, the Books of Magic chapter was so imaginative, and the act was really, really fun. Watching the kid who's turning pages and slowly being poisoned just start like drooling out of his mouth. Like it was very clear. And it was almost comical.
And that was more what you've gotten used to with, like, that's what I think of the Sandman Universe stuff as looking like. Is this like...
Well, it's Peter Gross-ish.
Comic-y,
right?
Yeah, Peter Gross-ish, exactly. Like, comic-y, but realistic. And,
and then you've got the dark kind of muddy sheen for about 4 issues. And it was a really, really good story. That's why it kind of kept going for me. But if this was 12 issues of that, it would have been a little bit harder to go through. Now, the second to last bit. So like Aaron Campbell is, I think, the first 3 issues. Then you got 2 issues of Matthias Bergara, and then another issue of Aaron Campbell. So that's the first 6. The Matthias Bergara stuff was spectacular to me. I absolutely loved a little bit more cartoonish, slender, exaggerated Constantine. Yeah. Where he is introduced to this very hipster, crunchy mage who's been covering for him while he's been gone. Yeah. Actually, that's something that we didn't mention. So the idea is that there have been many Constantine books in the intervening years since the main series ended, like a long time ago.
Yeah, and he was not as much in Vertigo. Like he was kind of brought into. He's in Justice League Dark.
Let's just say like that. So that version of. So this is meant to be the Vertigo version of John Constantine continued.
Yeah,
because they posit in the story that whatever happened after, like when he made the deal with the older version of himself, that's the end of the Vertigo. Like that's the Vertigo version of John Constantine. That he makes the deal and wakes up here, and he's been in the story. He's been missing for X amount of years, and is very
doesn't know how to work a cell phone.
Doesn't know how to work on a smartphone. They very subtly postulate that this is OG John Constantine. All that other stuff in the multiverse and in DC continuity, sure, that maybe happened, but this is the one that you're following from over there,
and
which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
they pulled him out of continuity and then put him back right here.
Right, he's in like what is already an alternate or possible reality, so it kind of still works just as well. And he's like put back into his body. Before we get too far away from it, I just thought it was an interesting parallel. In the first one, the guy who is another issue with the art is I didn't realize he was supposed to be tattooed. I thought that was like a magical thing, right?
Full body tattoos,
yeah, and they may also be magical. But whereas he was difficult to understand, I found it equally impenetrable to read through a bunch of William Blake poems while we were, I was like, oh my God, here we got to go through another 3 stanzas of Blake's stuff. But I just thought that was an interesting point and counterpoint.
This is not a binge read.
No.
This is very much absorb a chapter, put it down, absorb a chapter, put it down. But it was incredibly, like, for me, it was fulfilling, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I would be selective as to who I recommend this to.
Yeah. Although the last issue, what do you think about the art in the last issue? Because the same artist, same style.
The style of the story though fit it better.
Yeah.
Like the last story was a little bit of a one shot, but not really. This was one of those instances where it's almost like a one and done story, but at the end they kind of reveal that it still has to do with old everything John Constantine. Yeah.
Well, and there's some kind of gathering evil and darkness that is, I think, the through line to all of this stuff. That in the 2-parter where you've got this guy, this like naive guy who thinks he's been made the protector of Albion, all of England.
That was my favorite.
It was good. It was good. The art, I enjoyed the change. I wasn't sure how well it fit Constantine, but I wouldn't object. You know what I mean? And then this evil has been, doing stuff all over England, and it has. When they put it on a map, it is a phallus and testicles. Is what it is. Which they're like, we're just screwing with this guy that thinks he's the top mage,
And then you learn it literally was old Constantine. Like the big bad in this entire series is future version of John Constantine.
Yeah,
which is awesome. But to your like this, it literally just clicked. We're going to talk about Lucifer forever now. The way that this was structured, and I don't know if it's continued in the series because as much as I do plan on picking up the next volume, I've not been reading it in issues, so I don't know. But wouldn't it be cool if, just like they did with Lucifer, it's Peter Gross as the main artist, but then every 4 or 5 issues, you've got Dean Ormston doing 1 to 2 issues of just like an in-between story that does have to do with the main plot, but it's an in-between story. And that's kind of what this Matthias stuff looked like. It was completely different from the previous art. However, it was still worked, still in it, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, and it was a nice kind of refreshing change.
It was daytime. That was nice.
Yes, that was
just
nice.
daytime.
Yeah. His Constantine's solution, his little tricks and whatever are done very well in this book, and the way that the problem, the main problem that they face is that the ravens in the Tower of London, which are a real thing as far as I know, have been trained to say horrible things to non-British people that then manifest in reality. And so there's an immigration and racism thing throughout this entire book. It also shows up in I think it shows up in only the single issue at the end. I don't think it's in the first story arc, but I think it's going to be a major part of the book. Mm-hmm. And I love how Constantine's way of getting around this is not magical. He just teaches the ravens a bunch of new words that are not family friendly. So they take the ravens away for a while to like retrain them.
I thought that was great too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really so Constantine is known for, I guess, his brilliance is how simple his solutions are at times, or how like outside of the box the solutions are.
Indiana Jones shooting the guy posturing with the swords, and he pulls out a revolver and shoots it, or whatever he had and shot it.
The idea of he doesn't know how to work a cell phone. Yeah. So they dispatch a demon and trap it in his cell phone. Mm-hmm. And instead of figuring out how to use the tech, he just keeps making little bargains with this demon in his phone. Like, hey, can you just find me a number? I'll find you a video of somebody getting punched, and that'll make you happy for a little bit. Can you just find me a phone number? So like it's this, it's the path of least resistance, or the easiest path for him, as opposed to just like learning a new skill, which I thought was just awesome about the character. Yeah. But you had mentioned the last issue, same artist, but I think it works better. Yeah. The way that issue is laid out, it's almost like that issue is something's happening in the terminal ward at the hospital. It's structured like a closed door mystery, one location, a lot of prose, and just a handful of characters. So there's no real need for like the kinetic energy from panel to panel like the other issues did. True. So it didn't bother me as much. However, there still were some visually confusing things in that issue. Like the ghost and how it manifests and what it's actually doing was super unclear, because when it turns evil, the whole panel just becomes this like mess of paint. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, it still wasn't as effective as I think it could have been. Like they're going for mood over, I think in some respects, it feels like they're going for mood over substance or clarity, which works in pieces. But as a whole, I didn't know how successful it was for me. I definitely thought those pages that you mentioned, those were the like 3 times in that issue where I was like, this is this is tough. This one page, where they're like splash pages of them doing their thing. It was tough to figure out what was happening, that kind of thing. I actually still am not 100% sure, and I just may be forgetting, was that ghost that old woman or a separate entity who had latched onto that old woman? I'm not certain. It was so they, I mean, spoilers, guys. It was the old woman, but it was the old woman fueled by hate. So somebody pretending to be her. Yeah, that's right. She never had a family. She never had children. She was just very lonely, and somebody started sending her letters that allowed her to be almost weaponized on her deathbed. Yeah. And then she became whatever this evil is. I mean, old Constantine or whatever it turns out to be. That's what is ultimately behind it. But and they show old Constantine kind of imbuing her with the ability to do that. So like it's this larger plot, and she is just a pawn. But the teaser at the end, I don't understand it. It's like letters. The letters were coming from the House of Commons, or just Parliament. Don't remember that. Yeah, they have 2 houses, House of Lords and House of Commons. That's about all I know about British Parliament. They look at the envelopes where the letters were coming from, and they just kind of, you could see that they were sent by the government, essentially. Oh, yeah. I remember thinking like, I wonder if that was supposed to be more effective than it would. Yeah. For other readers, maybe. For me, not. However, it was still enough of a breadcrumb. Sure. Something's up. Oh, also, I like the resolution to this. I love a good
kindness and compassion and goodness wins out over
Yeah.
hatred, and that's how you solve problems, really. And this was that. I thought it was great.
It was very much a Doctor Who kind of thing.
Yeah,
A Doctor
definitely.
Who kind of resolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would very much recommend this book. I liked it a lot. I am not
Mhm.
historically a Hellblazer fan or a Hellblazer reader, but I've always liked the character. So this was a really good. This is a really good book that is both an entry point and a continuation of the heyday.
Mhm.
It's not so layered with references that it's completely impenetrable, but it's also not so slave slaven or slaved. It's not
Slavishly, I
so slavishly connected to what happened
Mm.
previous that it's not fun to read if you
Right.
didn't. So like it's a really good balance of entry point / continuation.
Also, it makes me want to read books of magic, which I have a bit of a backlog of. I own them and just haven't gotten around to.
I was gonna. I would. Well, which version? So like the original version or the
No, whatever
relaunch?
one. I read the other one, the original one, a long time ago. But whatever series this is, actually, the first Simon Spurrier thing and the first Tim Hunter thing I ever read was Books of Magic: Life During Wartime, where Tim is an adult. That was my exposure to it, and I was like, this guy's pretty cool. And I went back and got the other stuff. But no, I mean just this series, whatever series this is. I don't know if Spurrier is the regular writer on that or if he just came in.
He's not.
It was a duet,
I
right?
forget who it is. Yeah. The regular
Cat Howard.
Maybe. I know Tom Fowler does the layouts for, or at least did for a while. But yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah. Oh, and you may have noticed also one of the things that they're doing with Tim, I think since the New 52 started, is he is like a techno mage. Like that's part of his thing, and like that's the part of the newness of Tim Hunter, that he would be the next great mage. Yeah, and I think that's why he uses, trying to hold it up here, but he's got a screwdriver as his wand, and there's like a kind of circuitry
that makes sense.
Aesthetic to his magic.
I would be down potentially going back and reading that. I heard that it was pretty good. I just like as the Sandman universe border attracts some people, it detracts me normally.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's good. It's really good. It's not. I wouldn't say it's like one of the must reads of the Sandman universe, but it's enjoyable and it's a cool like tour through DC's magical. It's a little less Vertigo. It's a little more set in just general DC stuff. Yeah, and you get a whole like beginning of time to end of time kind of DC magic thing. So that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a very meaty read. I very much enjoyed it. I'm glad I own it, and I would suggest other people pick it up. This was really good.
Yeah,
John Constantine,
I'll second
Hellblazer.
that. Except for the owning it part, I don't own it. But if I did, I'd be glad to.
You could just second the recommendation.
I do
and we are not blind to the irony of us talking about a Hellblazer book and JD not being here.
Yes,
he is the biggest John Constantine fan. It's pretty annoying.
In fact, I know, right? It's like
John Constantine.
Yeah,
we might as well be talking about Preacher for 2 hours and not including him.
When I stopped by Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex in Manayunk, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this week, that JD owns, operates. It's a great store, and I stopped in to pick up my own books, and I was like, oh, that sucks that you won't be here to talk about Constantine. Yeah. JD really wanted to be here too, but there's many other things in the world, and I was like, oh, well, we could talk about it a little now. So JD and I had a little conversation, and I let him know that I enjoyed it, which he enjoyed. So he has at least gotten something out of us having read it, but not as much as he might have wanted.
All right, you know what? I look, we've got maybe 5 minutes. Do you want to do Thunder rounds when we'll wrap up?
Sure, let's do it.
Bonus Thunder rounds.
We'll bonus Thunder rounds.
All right, let me get my rounds. Bonus. You know what? Here, I've got a banner for it and everything too. We might as well make this legit.
Let's legitimize this.
Let's legitimize it.
Yeah.
What are Thunder rounds? Thunder rounds are
Thunder rounds. 60 seconds on the clock to tell you what thunder rounds are. We talk about things for 60 seconds, and we never talk about them for longer than that. If we do, we're off the show. That's what happened to JG this week. He talked about a thunder round for 62 seconds.
Yeah, he did it.
1 week
he did a 63-second thunder round.
Yeah, that was that.
So it's not acceptable.
We don't make the rules. Well, I guess we do, but we follow them slavishly.
Yeah, I was we make the rules, so it's our choice. However, we are fervently married to those rules.
Now that they're set in stone.
Yeah. So I've got my timer to 1 minute, and great. Brian, I would love for you to talk about Dune, House Atreides #1, written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson with art by Dev Pramanik. I will read the solicit, and then we will start the clock.
All right. Let's do it.
And we'll do it with a 1, 2, 3, go. Really, like,
and then I'll go when you say go.
Yeah. And you know what? I even made a ticker for it, so that's going to happen. I know. I'm just
look at it ticking. I can see it. You listening at home or wherever you listen to things, you can't see it, but this ticker is ticking. It says all the things about this book. There we go.
Hey, David. Yay, Thunder Rounds. Thank you very much, sir. These are just for you, Samuel David. All right. So Dune, House Atreides #1, set in the years leading up to the Hugo and Nebula Award-winning Dune, which inspired the upcoming feature film from Legendary Pictures. Dune, House Atreides transports readers to the far future on the desert planet Arrakis, where Pardat Keenes seeks its secrets. Meanwhile, a violent coup is planned by the son of the Emperor Elrond. An 8-year-old slave, Duncan Idaho, seeks to escape his cruel masters, and a young man named Leto Atreides begins a fateful journey. These unlikely souls are drawn together first as renegades and then as something more, as they discover their true fate to change the very shape of history. So, are you ready, Brian?
I'm ready.
Go.
There's no 1, 2, 3. All right. I gotta go.
Just do
it. This was very well done. You know, it was a good story. It was a capable prologue. I personally, if you are going to watch this movie or read the book, which I recommend that you do, I would not read this before you see it. No particular reason other than why not be exposed to these story elements in the grand story that they were originally intended. And then, you know, I think these are even based on books that came out afterwards that are prequel stories. I read it so long ago that some of these things I remember, but I'm like, who is this guy? How does this lead here? So I missed out a little on the enjoyment of seeing the pieces fall into place that I'm familiar with. All that being told, capably told story, it's pretty scattershot because it is in fact just saying, this thing's going to happen. Here's the thing where this almost happens. I don't remember Duncan Idaho being in this book. Maybe that's a later one.
End of round. You're welcome. Did you like the GIF?
I did enjoy that.
The pizza bagels kid.
I did.
the eternity of pizza bagel kid.
It let me know that the round was over in a very effective way.
Yeah, you know what? That's a visual joke for those that watch the stream and or the YouTube reload later. On the podcast, sorry, we're having fun with GIFs. I apologize.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it's my turn. Do you have a timer, or would you like me to time myself?
I do have a timer, and it's set.
All right, so I am going to talk about Batman 101, written by James Tynion IV, with art by Gilliam March. Solicitations are as follows. A new day dawns in Gotham City, and the horrific aftermath of the Joker War is only starting to unfold. Now, how has the Joker's rampage affected the citizens of the city? What legacy did the Clown Prince of Crime leave? And how it will hit the Dark Knight? And why does Cole Cash, a.k.a. Grifter, now work for Lucius Fox?
He was.
Tell me when you're ready. So. I should have grabbed the issue, but...
Oh, too late now. 6 seconds on the clock, and go.
Okay, so I didn't hate this issue. So I thought that this was interesting to talk about because this is issue 101. We just went through the entirety of the Joker War, and it's always very interesting to me what they do immediately after kind of like an event. This issue was very much resetting up the status quo, some of it actually surprising, some of it not surprising whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. And in a weird way, almost James Tynion calling his shot. Like he dissolves the relationship with Catwoman for a year. He sets up the new status quo of how Batman can function in this kind of defunded new world. How he is going to function inside of Gotham City as opposed to over the water. Like, it was a lot of groundwork that was interesting, but and a large part of that for me was the art. I really didn't like it at all. Gilliam March is not doing it for me. He draws Batman with the spike cape that I hate.
End of round.
Never around.
Yeah, they did go back to the blue though, which I liked. The blue and gray as opposed to the black and gray. I thought that was fun.
There's no blue.
Yeah, he had a blue suit on in the when he's talking with Catwoman. It's the blue and the gray. I don't remember. Got it for you. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why, but the way that he draws Batman, he looks like a grizzled 85-year-old.
Yeah, it does.
Like, just I don't care for it. It wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah.
But I do like all the stuff that I had read an interview by Tinian. Mm-hmm. It's no secret that 100 was supposed to be his last issue when he took the gig.
Oh.
But
it was a secret to me.
In the course of because the idea was he's just going to jump in for like 12 to 15 issues, and then 5G was going to start, and the new creative team was going to come in. Less than halfway through his little like really finite plan, they were like, no, it's longer. So there was a lot of reshuffling and reshifting and changing pieces of story and all kinds of weird stuff. So in a lot of ways, this is his first issue, because this is the first issue of his long-term plan for the character. So it read exactly like that. Like, there was a lot of setup. There was a lot of status quo kind of buildup, which was what I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice. All right, excellent.
Yeah. But I you know what, I think we've wasted people's time enough.
And by the way, Noel, that was over 60 seconds. I tricked you into it. You can't come on the show next week.
You know what? You know what? Neither can you.
Yeah. You know what? Let me talk about Dune for a little bit longer. I liked the art.
You know what? I think we're just gonna not do the show next week.
Yeah, it's the only thing we could do with those. These are the rules.
All right. So you know what? All right. So like a baby, we're gonna head out.
Just like a baby.
Brian, is there anything else you want to say to the people before we say goodbye?
Oh no, I don't think so. Nothing in particular. I saw Star Trek Discovery episode 2 of season 3, and it continues to be awesome.
We have not watched episode 2 yet.
Oh, okay. So. Well, it continues to be awesome.
Oh, right. Fair enough then. Where in the meantime, until we talk again, where can the people find you?
Oh, I'm at brianliebdesign.com or brianlieb.com. 2 domains that point to the same site. Oh,
so every avenue for a user. Don't drop off.
That's right.
Just don't drop off those points of engagement.
No.
You could. You guys can find me anywhere here or on Twitter at Mr. Bartocci, MRBARTOCCI, or any of the CultPop podcast live feeds or social medias, and I'll say hello. Other than that, thank you for spending time with us. For the last however many minutes we've been here, about an hour and 15.
1 hour, 43.
45 minutes.
21 seconds right now.
It keeps growing.
Be sure to like at a time, yes.
Yeah. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so you know every time that we stream live. Also, you can talk to us via email if you'd prefer. That's cultpopgo@gmail.com, CultPopgo@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, comment, talk to us, engage with us, because obviously we're very standoffish. No. We enjoy this stuff. But besides that, thanks guys. Thanks for hanging out. Wash your hands, wear a mask, be safe, be happy, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.